Are we watching a legitimate playoff team emerge in San Antonio? Or is this all smoke and mirrors? The Spurs are sitting at 12-5, fifth in the brutal Western Conference. And here's the crazy part. They've gone 4-1 in the last 5 games without Victor Wembanyama. Let that sink in for a second. This isn't just about one generational talent anymore. The numbers reveal a team identity that's built to sustain success. Let's dive in. What's up, Spurs fans? Welcome to Spurs. Quick news, quick, sharp, and all about the silver and black. Here's something you don't see every day. The Spurs rank 4th in the league in total rebound percentage at 52.3, and they've maintained that ranking despite missing the NBA's rebounding leader Victor Wembanyama for the past 5 games. How is that even possible? 2 key factors: offensive boards and defensive discipline. San Antonio sits 12th in offensive rebound percentage at 32.2%, meaning they're keeping possessions alive roughly 1 out of every 3 misses. Luke Kornet and Keldon Johnson have been absolute monsters on the glass. Kornet, who signed a 4-year deal this past offseason after winning a championship with Boston, brought that winning mentality to San Antonio. He was second only to Steven Adams in offensive rebounding last season and has been a beast filling in for Wemby. Johnson ranks 45th league-wide in offensive boards per game, taking over the designated crasher role that Jeremy Sochan handled last year. On the defensive end, the Spurs are recovering 71% of opponent misses, ranking 6th in defensive rebound percentage. That's a massive turnaround from recent years when San Antonio ranked in the bottom third of the league. Wembanyama leads the NBA in defensive rebounds per game when healthy, and the Spurs rank 9th in opponent second-chance points. Even without Wemby these past 5 games, they've been better at defensive rebounding than 16 other teams. What does this tell you about the team's mentality and depth right now? Here's where things get really interesting from a scheme perspective. The Spurs allow the most mid-range jumpers in the league at 11.5 attempts per game, and that's not by accident. For years under Greg Popovich, and now with Mitch Johnson at the helm, the Spurs have built their identity around forcing opponents into the least efficient shots possible. Opponents are shooting 41.8% on those mid-range looks, which translates to a very low points per possession outcome, especially since those shots rarely draw fouls. The interior defense tells the real story. San Antonio allows the 10 fewest shots at the rim and the lowest field goal percentage at the basket. When you've got Victor Wembanyama protecting the paint, that makes perfect sense. But here's what separates good teams from pretenders. The Spurs also allow the 5th fewest shots in the paint outside the restricted area and rank 2nd in fewest points in the paint overall, trailing only the Thunder. Yes, they're allowing a fair amount of threes, and opponents have been hitting them at an unlucky rate. But the shot profile is clear. San Antonio turns teams into jump-shooting squads. From Spain pick-and-roll actions to Devin Vassell getting clean, looks-off handoffs, to the 5-out spacing that opens driving lanes for De'Aaron Fox. Mitch Johnson is implementing modern concepts while maintaining that classic Spurs defensive identity. Think back to the Duncan Parker-Ginobili era. Same philosophy, different personnel. The Spurs never chased trends, they dictated terms. What specific defensive adjustment have you noticed that's making the biggest difference this season? Drop it in the comments. If you're enjoying this breakdown of how San Antonio is engineering success through fundamental basketball, tap that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an analysis. Here's a stat that'll make you do a double take. The Spurs rank 10th in fast break points, despite being the 26th slowest team in pace. How does a slow team generate transition buckets? The answer is simple but brilliant. They're selective. San Antonio ranks 8th in points scored with the shot clock between 24 to 22 seconds, meaning they're hunting quick strike opportunities immediately after defensive stops. If a clean look isn't there within 2 seconds, they slow it down and run half-court sets. That calculated approach brings their overall pace down, but when they do push, they're deadly efficient. The personnel fits perfectly. De'Aaron Fox is a speed demon in the open floor. Since arriving from Sacramento in that February trade and signing his 4-year max extension this summer, Fox has been exactly what this team needed: a blur with the ball who can attack the rim after steals and finish at the cup. With Dylan Harper sidelined due to a calf strain for the past 10 games, The Spurs have leaned even more heavily on Fox's ability to create those quick-strike opportunities. But here's the defensive side that's equally impressive. San Antonio allows the fewest fast break points in the league despite ranking 21st in turnover percentage. Opponents take the longest time to shoot after turnovers against the Spurs, literally the longest in the entire NBA. And they post the 5th lowest effective field goal percentage in those situations. Off steals specifically, opponents have scored the 3rd fewest points and posted the 3rd lowest EFG percentage. Translation: the Spurs aren't just careful with the ball, they're making opponents pay for their mistakes while refusing to give up easy buckets on their own turnovers. That's championship-level discipline. How crucial is this fast break differential going to be as the Spurs continue without Wemby in the lineup? Subscribe and hit that bell icon so you're locked in for every tactical breakdown this season. Remember when the Spurs couldn't close games? Those days might be over. San Antonio currently holds a 7-3 record in clutch situations. That's a 70% win rate in games that go down to the wire. For a relatively young roster, that's remarkable growth. The numbers back it up. The Spurs post the 3rd best net rating in the league in 4th quarters and perform better in the final frame than they do in the first 2 periods. The only concerning trend? They're one of the worst 3rd quarter teams in the league, posting a negative 5.3 net rating that ranks 22nd. So they build leads, let teams back in during the 3rd, then clamp down when it matters. In 2024-25, the Spurs finished 19th in clutch win percentage with a 17-20 record. Prior seasons were even worse. This year's turnaround is dramatic and directly correlates to having Victor Wembanyama and De'Aaron Fox available in crunch time. Wembanyama's been leading the charge when healthy, averaging 26.2 points, 12.9 rebounds, and a league-leading 3.6 blocks before his calf injury. Fox, who's averaging 23.5 points and 6.1 assists on the season with career-high three-point shooting, gives the Spurs a legitimate second closer who can create his own shot and get to the free throw line. For a young team featuring Stephon Castle, who's also currently out with a hip flexor strain and developing pieces, being comfortable in intense moments is a massive advantage. It's the kind of trait that separates teams who make noise in April and May from teams who fade. Looking at roster construction, the Spurs held on to veterans Harrison Barnes and kept Kelly Olynyk in the rotation specifically for these moments. Both bring championship experience and steady hands when possessions matter most. Are the Spurs legit contenders this season? Or is this success setting up a deeper run in 2026-27? Let me know your realistic playoff expectations below. If this deep dive into the statistical foundation of San Antonio's hot start added value to your understanding of where this team is headed, smash that like button and share this with another Spurs fan who needs the full breakdown. These aren't fluky wins. This is systematic, sustainable basketball built on rebounding, defensive discipline, transition efficiency, and clutch execution. Subscribe so you never miss a beat in this new Spurs era. The silver and black are back, and the numbers prove it's real. Stay locked in. Peace.